100 Americans are killed each day due to gun violence.
Young people today are passionate about a great number of issues, but primary among them is gun violence. This isn't surprising given they're growing up in an age of lockdown drills and school safety officers stationed at the front office. An organization that's been involved in shaping the political conversation about this issue is Moms Demand Action. Diana is involved in this action. She's a school counselor. She's very passionate about gun control and believes that there is an answer to this problem.
We have states like New Jersey and New York that have pretty strong gun laws. And then we look at other states like Pennsylvania and Virginia where the laws aren't as tough. So what we're seeing is guns coming from states with weaker gun laws into states where their laws are more strong.
Money is the mother's milk of politics, and the NRA has lots of money to go around.
If we know about these loopholes and laws that facilitate more gun violence, why can't we do anything about them?
I think the funding does affect political positions of candidates running for office, because in strong NRA areas across the country, there are candidates who rely on NRA funding to get elected because they can't get elected without it. So they're going to make sure that their positions are in line with the NRA, and the NRA will give them a rating. If they have an A+ rating from the NRA, it's going to impact their funding and also impact their support at the ballot box. So in my opinion, current gun laws are lacking. I think background checks should be in effect, and I also think that the Second Amendment can still be protected without giving everyone access to an AR-15 or an AK-47. Look at Western societies, the United States stands out in terms of gun violence. When did it start? I'm not exactly sure when it started, but I think it rose to the level of public consciousness in the 90s. That in the 80s, President Reagan was shot, and during that assassination attempt, his press secretary was gravely wounded, and Press Secretary Brady worked his whole life with his wife to have stricter gun laws. The Brady bill was passed in the 90s. Then later in the 90s, you had the Columbine shooting, which brought gun violence in schools to a tragic head. But that was 20 years ago. And there are still school shootings, there's still violence in our streets. So the problem hasn't abated. Well, I think there's a multifaceted solution. One, I think we tighten up legislation on guns and really weapons of mass destruction that these semi-automatic weapons are. But we also have to address systemic poverty and other social problems that affect Americans from Maine to Florida to California to Washington, every point in between. And until we do that, we're going to have problems with violence in our streets. So you're talking about not just gun control, but you're talking about societal change with legislation that lifts people up from poverty, that educates them, that gives them the opportunity that they currently don't have. To strike a balance between public safety and gun laws, if there is legitimate gun control legislation where you take away these weapons of mass destruction, you secure weapons in the hands of people who are licensed, trained, and their backgrounds are checked, then the Second Amendment is upheld, right to bear arms.
If I could change something, I would call for background checks on every gun sale. Background checks have been shown to be the #1 means of preventing gun violence. And it's simple. It's also supported by over 90% of Americans, including NRA members.